Alright, so today we're going to be talking about Darwin, Portrait of a Genius by Paul Johnson. This author is very well renowned. He's written other biographies on Jesus, Socrates, and Churchill. Go check him out. All his life, Charles Darwin believed that inheritance was much more important in shaping a man or woman than education or environment. So, what is inheritance? Well, it's a thing that is inherited, and there's two main kinds of things that get inherited. There's things, and then there's life. So your genetics, the way that you're made, and then the property and assets that you can inherit. So as you can see, despite knowing nothing about the science of genetics, Darwin was able to sense the inheritance at place in various biological forms. He actually never used the word gene in any of his writing. So I think both types of inheritance, legal and genetic, both played a role on Darwin. Let's check out his family tree to see how. So up at the top with the red circles are his grandparents, Erasmus Darwin and Josiah Wedgwood. The blue circle is his father, Robert Darwin, and Charles is in the green circle. You can notice that next to him in the green circle, he married his cousin, which is also connected to his red circle at the top. So describing Charles Darwin's inheritance. As the progeny of three such remarkable men, Erasmus and Robert Darwin and Josiah Wedgwood, the imaginative genius, the intuitive genius, and the empirical genius, Charles Darwin had access to a gene pool of the highest possible quality. Now this is definitely true. Depending on how you want to interpret these words, people interpret imaginative and empirical and intuitive in different ways, but basically his grandparent, Erasmus Darwin, probably had the biggest impact on Darwin, the imaginative genius. Josiah Wedgwood was the entrepreneur, the empirical genius, and his father was the intuitive genius. Now, Erasmus, like I said, probably the biggest impact: physician, natural philosopher, physiologist, slave trade abolitionist, inventor, poet. So, this guy, the true polymath, was an extraordinary polymath, instinctive inventor of mechanical gadgets, and a man who had theories and ideas about everything. He truly did. I said, was he Da Vinci or Darwin? What do you guys think? Anyways, he actually released this book called Zoonomia, or The Laws of Organic Life. It contains some of the early evolutionary theories that would be expanded on 2 generations later by his grandson Charles. So important fact there. And Erasmus would hang out with these, big players, Benjamin Franklin, James Watt, Matthew Boulton, and more at the Erasmus Darwin house where he lived in Litchfield. And this was, a secret place to some extent. Not really. It wasn't like, some conspiracy, but many were skeptics of the church or Unitarians, which means that, they encompassed other beliefs outside just the, reigning Catholic or whatever Christian church was reigning at the time. And Josiah Wedgwood, like I said, was the entrepreneur, the potter, credited with the industrialization of pottery. He's also a slave trade abolitionist, just like Erasmus, and he was credited as the inventor of modern marketing. He came out with concepts such as buy one, get one. He was an empirical scientist of superhuman scale. So his company is still around today and employs 3,100 people. As you can see, they got some $14 mugs that look nice. Or if you want to spend $90 on a mug, go ahead. Or blow $4,000 on a bowl. So Robert Darwin, the father of Charles Darwin, was the son of Erasmus and was a medical doctor and psychiatrist. Started his successful medical practice at 20 years old. And as you can see, 336 pounds. He's a big guy. His genius lay in immediate physical contact with the patient on first diagnosis, on visits, and at every point in the course of the condition. So it's interesting to note is that Robert Darwin was credited with the first empirical evidence of microsaccades. And yes, I had to look up the definition on that one. But his wife, Savannah Darwin, Charles Darwin's mother, was Josiah Wedgwood's eldest daughter, married Erasmus's son, and passed when Darwin was only 8 years old. We know that she was highly intelligent, lively, and imaginative, capable of inspiring great affection, but Charles said nothing about his love of her or his loss. It is a fact that, though fluent and in most ways highly communicative, Charles Darwin never spoke or wrote of the deepest things. So on a lighter note, let's talk about his money. Describing Darwin's money tree. First, all three forebears were skillful at handling money and amassed it with seemingly effortless ease that financial wizards show. So, a lot of people in his family were good at handling that cash. So as you can see, Darwin's fortune versus Dickens' fortune. Charles Darwin, mainly known for Origin of Species, but left a way bigger fortune behind than Charles Dickens, who wrote many more classics. Now, describing Darwin's worries, he never had to worry about money. He did worry about money. He worried about everything, but he never had to compromise, limit, or adjust his scientific activities for financial reasons, which is important. Now, they did worry about things that Joseph Priestley had to worry about, who's the discoverer of oxygen. He invented carbonation, published over 150 works. This guy, genius in his own right. He was a friend of the Darwin family before Charles Darwin actually came around. But what happened to Joseph Priestley is church didn't really like all the stuff he was doing, so they kind of burned his books, scientific equipment, and papers to the ground with his house. So this always remained in Charles Darwin's subconscious. He heard the story, and the victimization and enforced exile of Priestley became a defining event in Darwin family and among all their dissenting and unorthodox friends. So the religion versus science debate, was still a contended thing going on. And what terrified him was the religious dimension of the event, left him with an abiding fear of the possible consequences of offending the tender consciences of Church of England clergymen who might then be inspired to stir up a mob to burn and kill. So he did not want that to happen. So on a later note, we will be talking about how we think that religion and science can be reconciled. Not impossible. And if you want to go check out thankgodforevolution.com, that is the book that we will be discussing on this channel eventually. So if you guys liked this video, make sure you subscribe. Also, I'm going to be posting a lot more videos about Darwin, evolution, science, and how it relates to art, how we see evolution apply to other things besides biology. And let me know in the comments below what you think. Was Charles Darwin more of an imaginative genius, an empirical genius, or an intuitive genius? Which kind of genius was he? I'd be curious to see what your answers are. I'll see you guys in the next video.